Friends, welcome to the Catholic Citizen. It's great to have you with us in this very quick rundown. This is the final show before the election. Praise God. No more commercials, no more texts or phone calls. Have you voted yet? And if you haven't voted yet, it's still time to vote early. So get out there and do that. But on this week's show, I want to do a couple things with you. First and foremost, if you're here in Ohio, there's a couple issues that are going on. Issue number one, check out ccv.org. There's information about issue one. We're urging a no vote on issue one. This would create a unelected bureaucratic level of 15 individuals who would be drawing up the maps, the congressional maps here in the state of Ohio. And if we don't like them, there is no recourse to act. Elected officials that are on the panel that actually draw up the maps. And if we don't like the maps, we can kind of vote them out. This is backed by individuals like Planned Parenthood, Equality Ohio, the 1630 Fund, which is like kind of a progressive group that funds these kind of initiatives around the country. Vote no on issue one. Okay. So more information at ccv.org. Also, this is my favorite time of year because we have people calling me on the way to the voting booth, family member, friends, and they're like, well, how do I vote on, issue one? And so I tell them vote no. You can also find out information about your candidates at buckeyeballot.com, buckeyeballot.com. You can enter in your zip code, figure out who's on your ballot, and then also which organizations are endorsing those individuals. So don't want to vote for somebody who's endorsed by Planned Parenthood, just saying as a Catholic. All right. Now, on this week's episode, 5 kind of stories here for you as we wrap up, and I give you some thoughts on who to vote for in this upcoming election. Again, we don't endorse candidates because Awaken Catholic's a 501c3, the Center for Christian Virtue is a 501c3. However, we try to educate you so that you are formed properly in your conscience to know how to vote. But this week's news, kind of interesting. First and foremost, just a question for you. Are you garbage? President Joe Biden took a swipe, this is from the Associated Press, took a swipe against Donald Trump's supporters as he reacted to the Republican presidential nominee's weekend rally at Madison Square Garden. Now, first of all, MSNBC was saying that because Trump was holding a rally at Madison Square Garden, that he was basically like Hitler because the Nazis once held a rally there. It's like saying every basketball game that is held there is like the Nazis because they're at Madison Square Garden. It's absolutely ridiculous and crazy. But there was a bad joke that was made. I would say it's a bad joke at the rally where a comedian came up before President Donald Trump spoke, and he was making a joke about Puerto Rico, and he said something of the nature like it's basically an island full of garbage. Okay. I don't like the joke. I don't think you joke about, maybe a country's challenges or whatever they're facing or state. Now, President Joe Biden responded to this, trying to take advantage of this to say, look, President Trump, he's racist, all those things, came out and said, the only garbage I see is President Trump's supporters. Now, he's walked back this comment and trying to explain, look, I was trying to say it's just the comedian, whatever, maybe. He said what he said, and it falls in line with Hillary Clinton's, comments about everybody who supports Trump is deplorable. You get a glimpse into what people really think about the everyday, average, hardworking Americans who are out there on a daily basis and just happen to support President Trump. And look, I don't happen to be super like in the Trump train, if you will. But personally, when it comes to my vote in this presidential election, that's who I'm going to be voting for. And it's going to be for some of the reasons I'll talk about this today. But President Trump, in responding to this, actually came out in his next rally decked out in a garbage truck. It was pretty epic, to say the least. Politics aside, though, again, we shouldn't refer to whether they're Democrats or Republicans as garbage. That's just not building up human dignity at the end of the day. All right, second from The Guardian, a U.S. startup company is offering to help wealthy couples screen their embryo's IQ using controversial technology that has raised questions about the ethics of genetic enhancement. So for about $50,000, you can test your embryo's IQ on whether or not you want to keep that embryo or abort that embryo, or if you've used the IVF process to implant that embryo. Folks, this is the problem when it comes to in vitro fertilization. This is the problem when we're engineering babies because we begin practicing eugenics. The typical process in IVF is you create 10 embryos, you choose the strongest to then implant in the mother's womb, and you discard or you freeze the others. Now, after one of my recent talks, I had a woman come up and said, I went through the IVF process We ended up, having 2 children through that process. 3 we gave up for adoption, and then a few more, I think, died in the process. And, I praise God, and I said, "I'm so happy your 2 children are here." Excuse me, that you, had these babies. We celebrate no matter how life comes into existence. But it's also a tragic story. She has 2 children who are no longer with her, although her and her husband are perfectly capable of taking care of those children. They're just kind of with another family. And then they lost other children kind of in the process as well. So by going through the IVF process, children died. Children are not being raised by their biological parents. And praise God, they have 2 children of their own. But that's not necessarily something that we should be celebrating, I think, as far as IVF goes, because we always lose children basically in the process. You have children that are being frozen to death, and children that are just simply being discarded completely. Now, if you don't know who Katie Faust is, look her up today and follow her on social media. This is one of the issues that all this kind of genetic engineering leads to at the end of the day. Katie Faust, she's the founder and president of Them Before Us. It's a global movement defending children's right to their mother and father. She publishes, speaks, and testifies widely on why marriage and family are matters of justice for children. So she acknowledges, like every normal person should, that every child in the history of human existence has come from both a mom and a dad, and thus is deserving of both a mom and a dad to help raise them. Now, she just posted on her X account yesterday. You can go look it up. But there was a gay couple who wanted to have children. So they've hired 2 surrogates, 2 females. These are 2 males that are married under U.S. law. They've hired or maybe it's actually in Canada, but they've hired 2 females to be their surrogates. They bought 40 embryos. They discarded the ones that were not genetically fit to be children. They basically narrowed down the list to the 10 healthiest embryos. They're going to implant those 10 in the surrogates, hoping that they get 2 healthy children. This is absolute insanity, and it needs to stop. And unfortunately, both political parties have embraced kind of this artificial reproductive technology, but there are healthy ways to go about trying to achieve pregnancy, including NAPRO technology that doesn't cost human life as IVF and some of these other processes. But you have one Democratic Party which is completely embraced, hey, no limits on this stuff whatsoever. And at least you have some common sense when it comes to approaching these issues still from some Republicans. But we've got a lot of work to do. All right, we'll return to that in just a moment. But fourth, from the Catholic News Agency. Catholic News Agency reports that Catholic Bishop of Lansing, Michigan, recently told his flock that a new Catholic hospital would be established in the area. Doesn't sound like a big idea or a big thing, but it is. It's huge because when completed, this center aims to provide authentically Catholic pro-life care and spread its ethos via a school of osteopathic medicine that will be located on campus. This is the way. This is the way moving forward as far as how we need to respond to culture. So all the institutions that have been taken over by the secular left, we need to replace them with our own, including the healthcare systems. So the center will also contain outpatient and rehabilitative medicine, an embryo orphanage, a birthing unit, family practice, and the Terry Schiavo Home for the Brain Injured. So respecting life from the moment of conception all the way through natural death. So whether it's the Christian Business Partnership through the Center for Christian Virtue, which is going to replace the Chamber of Commerce or fight against that, and its woke ideology down in Columbus, or it's hospitals like this starting out that it's going to defend life from the moment of conception, natural death. That is the way to go. All right, fifth and finally, as we close up and we look at this election, don't forget, folks, immigration, economy, the environment, all really important issues, and we should study where our candidates stand on these issues. But we cannot forget that you can have prudential differences on how you approach those issues. You can believe in a border wall. You cannot believe that we should have a border wall and still be a Catholic in good standing. However, you can lose your standing as a Catholic if you're voting for someone who believes in abortion without limits. And that's what you have right now in the modern Democratic Party. So when you go vote, you cannot forget that the preeminent issue of concern for Catholics is the life issue. In this year's election, you're either going to have a government and a culture which promotes abortion, and a culture and a government that just thinks that even Catholic hospitals should be performing abortions, or a government that tries to find practical solutions for caring for the family and caring for these women. You're either going to have a government that gives $9 billion to abortion agencies around the globe to fund abortion, or a government that does not. You're either going to have a government with J.D. Vance, who's been outstandingly pro-life in his career, or you're going to have a government with Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, Democrat who has basically erased laws that protect children that survive abortions in his state. In the choice for life between the two parties, it is clear which way to go. Now, I'm not telling you to vote for one party, but I am telling you can't vote for the party which is so intrinsically for abortion that they don't even have any common sense on the issue anymore. Lastly, on gender and family issues, Pope Francis has called us to reject false gender ideologies. And you have one party which is attempting, like Governor DeSantis in Florida, to make sure that dangerous, disgusting books are not in the hands of kids. And then you have another party that is supporting books like In My Daddy's Belly. And let me read the description here from Amazon. In My Daddy's Belly is inspired by the author's real family. This heartwarming story of two dads eagerly awaiting the birth of the first child follows the excitement and joy of welcoming a new baby into a loving family. The person giving birth just happens to be one of the dads. Folks, end the insanity. Fight for truth in the public square. And with your vote, vote for common sense, vote for reality that only a mother can get pregnant and a woman can give birth. This is just, it's Orwellian. It needs to end, and it begins with our vote. It doesn't end there, but it begins this Tuesday with voting for life, for choosing sanity, for choosing strength, for choosing and voting for truth in this year's election. So I'll leave you with an important Bible verse that we should maybe study and pray on this coming weekend from Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curses. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying him and holding fast to him. For that means life to you and length of days, so that you may live in the land that the Lord swore to give to your ancestors, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. My friends, the Catholic Citizen, choose life and invite your family and your friends, your neighbors and coworkers to choose life as well. God bless you. And we'll see you next week when we have, God willing, a president who supports life. Take care, everybody.